Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, along with my co-host, Ed Carbajal. And on a weekly basis, we plan to bring you the biggest news and interviews in the world of combat sports. Ed, I know you're on hurricane watch. How's it looking out there on the East Coast, brother?
So far, so good. Just waiting for it to come and leave, like all the other storms.
Seems like you always got something going on out there.
Hmm.
Well, this week we're lucky to have a special guest, Team Quest fighter Mason Iacobellis. Up and coming fighter, like I said, from Team Quest, trained by Sam Alvey here in the Temecula area. Mason, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
So I basically became aware of you. I attended the Epic Fighting 39 event at the San Diego Sheraton on August 29th, um, which was just a couple weeks ago. And you kind of had the highlight of the night that evening, head kick, big head kick on your opponent, and you dropped him and then finished with some ground and pound. Um, how was that night for you?
Oh, it couldn't have gone any better. That was my first knockout of my career. And what a lot of people don't know is that guy actually beat me in a split decision a few years ago. So it felt really good to get revenge.
I saw that on the record, and I was going to ask you. I think his name was his last name was Ramos, I believe. Is
Alberto Romo.
Alberto Romo? Is he another local fighter?
Yeah, I believe he's from Hemet.
Oh, okay.
The I saw the finish was pinned to your profile on Twitter. We were talking about it before we went live. Who was recording it? That they got so excited. Was that what was from
Oh,
your corner?
no, that was one of my good friends, John. I have him. He takes me to every weigh-in, films all my fights, all my warm-up stuff. He
Oh,
trains well, so
where does he put that?
he just has it all on his phone, and then he gives me all the videos I need to post on my social media and stuff.
That's cool. So the finish was a reckoning for you. You beat somebody that you said you lost to before. Are you one of these guys like bad older cats, especially you train with Team Quest? So older guys like to say that when you beat a guy that you lost to, you erase the loss. Is that how it feels for you?
That's kind of how it feels, yeah.
Uh,
Especially because he beat me in a split decision, and then I finished him first round, so I feel like it kind of cancels it out.
you, you said that was your first knockout finish. Are you do you have like submission finishes? I have your record. It's 4-2-1, but I didn't look at the type of wins you have.
Yeah, my first fight was I won by rear naked choke in like 2 minutes. That was with Gladiator Challenge, so it's not on my actual record. Um, but yeah, I prefer to stand and strike. It's what fans want to see, and I like to be entertaining as well. But most of my fights end up going to the ground.
What's your do you know what your well, I'm sure you do, but what do you know what your actual record is? Depending on what website it ranges in every
Yeah,
website I check.
I'm 5-3-1.
Oh,
5-3-1.
Yeah.
Okay.
3-1.
And then what what weight class do you I see it says like 125 to 135. Do you just kind of bounce between featherweight and bantamweight?
I only fought at featherweight once. I won the fight, but I just took it on short notice, so I didn't want to cut weight. But I'm a natural 35er for sure.
So what's
What?
your I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there, Matt.
No, no. Go ahead.
Yeah, what's your what's your preferred like your long-term goal as far as you just starting out with the sport? I know you train with a lot of veterans. So do you have like to a certain promotion, or with the way the landscape of the sport is changing, has that changed your perspective at all as like what you want to do?
I'm just focused on like small goals at a time. I want to get that state title next. I'll probably have one more win in between then, and then hopefully fight for that state title. And after that, probably go pro. I already have 9 amateur fights under my belt. I made my debut when I was 17, so real close to approaching my pro career. But I want to get that state title first for sure.
17's young. How what got you into interested in the sport?
I just always liked watching it on TV. Was always a big fan, and I played football when I was a kid, but that wasn't like physical enough. I needed more, so started fighting.
How old are you now?
I just turned 21.
Wow.
Oh, okay, so you've got 9 fights before you're by 21. That's pretty impressive and obviously a good start. What attracted you to Team Quest? Obviously the names there and stuff. Was it Dan Henderson or was it just something you kind of stumbled upon walking in the door there?
I actually didn't know much about it until I started there. It just happened to be right down the street, so I guess I kind of just got lucky.
Yeah, that is lucky, man.
Yeah.
I've seen Sam around at a bunch of events and seen him fight for years, from his MFC days in Canada to, to obviously his, he's kind of peaking right now in the UFC.
Yeah.
He's got a big fight coming up with Nogueira in Brazil
Yeah.
in a couple weeks. What's it like training with that guy?
It's pretty cool. To me, he's just Sam, but when you go out with him and you see him around other people, and then you remember how famous he is, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, he's always been really, I'm sure he's smiling Sam Alvey, and he's always got the big smile on his face. I've never seen him behind the scenes, but he's one of those guys that has always been really fan friendly to me and any of my friends who, when we run into him at events, he's always really awesome. Take pictures and kind of chat it up with everybody. So I'm sure it's pretty cool. I know I've talked to Virgil Zwicker, who's trained with him a little bit, and he mentioned that Sam's a pretty cool cat to be around and fun to train with.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
So
What?
I know you said that you don't like to look too far ahead, but like I know you said you're a fan of the sport too. What do you as an MMA fan, what do you watch? Like who do you like watching now outside of your training partners, obviously?
I really like watching the lower weight classes. My favorite fighters are Chad Mendez, Cody Garbrandt. I really like those alpha male guys. Really looking forward to the Khabib McGregor fight.
I think
That's for
everybody
sure.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you do you have a wrestling background? Is that why you like Mendez and the alpha male guys?
I actually don't. I just started MMA all at the same time. Kind of picked it all up as I went, and a lot of people think I'm a wrestler, but I'm not. I'm a pure mixed martial artist.
Considering that you started, fairly young, how did your family react? Were they cool with it, or was there a lot of nerves in the family when you started fighting at 17?
Um, my dad really loved it because he was a martial artist himself. He has his black belt in Kempo karate from when he was a kid, so it kind of runs in the family. My mom, she wasn't really a fan at first, but once she saw me win my first fight, then she was hooked, and now she's at every one of them.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's important to have that support there and not have to worry about
Yeah.
you know.
So with the Team Quest guys, I mean, obviously you have, networking is a big part of any business you want to get into. Fighting is a business. Do those guys kind of rub your elbow and say like, you need to work your way pro so we can get you in the UFC with us or wherever, Bellator or
No,
wherever anyone else fights?
no, they don't try to rush me.
Hmm.
Obviously, we try to get as much experience as we can before going pro. Um, some of my coaches think I'm ready to go soon, but not quite yet. I kind of want to get like 2, maybe 3 more wins, and then go from there. But I'm only 21. I don't want to rush it, and my coaches know that too.
What help me? I've talked to some people who have done amateur fighting, and I think it's different from state to state. Is epic fighting? Is that I mean, I should know since I was there, but it's always been a little confusing to me. Is that a mix of pro and amateur? I always get confused by the shin guards, and then some fights don't have shin guards, but are still only 2 or 3 minute rounds. Um, how does that work?
It's all amateur, so there was no pro fights there. But with the shin guard rule, it's if you have less than 3 fights, you have to wear shin guards, and it's 2-minute rounds. If you have more than that, it's 3-minute rounds with no shin guards.
Okay.
So kind of confusing, but that's Camo's rule.
No, I mean that makes sense now that you say that. It
Yeah.
was confusing because it would kind of bounce around, and um,
Yeah.
I saw that you on Twitter you were looking for a fight with Tough Enough in Vegas. Is that something you're still interested in?
Absolutely. I was supposed to fight there back in June, but my opponent pulled out. So I have been to one of their events, and it was really cool. Definitely looked like a UFC fight. So I definitely want to fight there before I turn pro for sure.
Yeah, they put on a good show. I think they actually have one this, or at least a related show, co-promotion this Friday. Jeff Meyer is their, I believe, is their president. Um, I know I'm friends with him on Facebook, and if he listens to this show or sees it mentioned, let's get you a show. I know Corey Turner, one of our earlier guests, is also friends with Jeff and fought for Tough Enough before he fought in LFA. So um, we'll definitely do what we can to try to make some contacts and help you get a fight there. That would be
Sounds
pretty cool.
good. Yeah.
So what's the what do you like most about this stage of fighting? I mean, obviously, it sounds like you're having trouble getting opponents. Is that normal?
Um. Yeah. Pretty much. It's always hard to find opponents. Everyone gets injured, or at the amateur level, certain people don't want to fight. Certain people, and I've had 9 fights now, so it's kind of hard to find
Yeah.
amateurs with that much experience.
Yeah, because a lot of amateur guys, they'll do one or two fights, and then either they'll go move on to something else because they kind of just checked it off their bucket list. But
Yeah.
I mean, when your record as an amateur, I mean, 9 fights. That's kind of like, I know you said you wanted to get a few more in before you went pro, but it's like, some would say, obviously you're already hearing it. It's time to go pro. If you went pro, like I guess you'd want to get on the regional card near you, and then work your way up to something. Would you be interested in doing something like a team MMA or pro fight league or something like that?
Yeah, honestly, anywhere I can get a fight, I'll take it. I just want to compete. I just want to win. That's all that matters to me.
Do you do like grappling tournaments or anything to keep yourself active when there isn't a fight lined up?
Never done a grappling tournament, but I train 6 days a week, 2 days a week when I don't have work, or two times a day. I'm sorry, when I don't have work. So I'm always in the gym, never out of shape. So I'd rather just do MMA fights every weekend if I could.
I mean, you kind of have to if you want to make it, like, obviously at the level where Sam is and stuff. You always hear stories about fighters that work and fight at the same time, but it's like once you're invested in it, you kind of, it's weird. Like, how do you do the work life balance with training and work?
Um, it's definitely rough, but if I work at night, I'll train in the morning, and if I work in the morning, I'll train at night. If I have the day off, I'll go twice. But I got to feed myself. I got to pay my bills at the same time. So work comes first. Um, and yeah, it's hard, but I get it done.
Are you from the? Are you from Marietta? Are you born here? Do you have a, when you have your fights, do you have a big local following? Did you go to high school and everything in the area?
Yeah, I've been here my whole life. Um, Depends on where the fight's at. Like if it's pretty close, I'll have a big fan base. But if it's far, just like my immediate family will be there. But it
What's
doesn't
the
matter.
What's the farthest you've had a fight?
I'm
I want to
sorry, it's
say
breaking up a little bit.
probably either 29 Palms or downtown LA.
So just a couple hours.
Yeah.
What no, the amateur thing, when like Bellator comes to town, I know that they generally have a pretty big undercard of local fighters that they don't pay a ton to, but the guys sell some tickets and it kind of
Hmm.
gets them on a bigger card. Would that be something that you would be interested in, or um, is that kind of how you see you starting your pro career? And if that offer were to come sooner than later, would you take it, or are you pretty locked in on a couple more amateur fights?
If the opportunity to prevent itself, then why not? I would definitely take it. Bellator's a good promotion, and I would love to fight there.
How do you handle manager? Are you guys use the same manager at the gym, or are you doing everything yourself? Because the reason I ask is I know Eddie Alvarez talked about it not that long ago. He was up until he said like that when the contracts became more than 3 pages long, he was like, I need a manager. So how are you handling your fight booking? Someone doing it for you?
Sam gets me all my fights and opponents. So I don't really have to worry too much about that. I just train, make sure
Mhm.
my weight's good. Sam takes care of everything, so it's pretty
Nice.
nice. All I do is sign the dotted line and train.
What do you cut down from? I mean, that's kind of the topic of MMA, especially with the Nico Montano situation that took place last weekend at UFC. How much weight do you generally cut to get to 135?
Normally I'm about 145. Sometimes I'll maybe get up to 150, but I'm float at 45 and I'll cut to 35. So it's not very bad. I diet most of it and then I'll cut like a few pounds of water. So it's pretty easy. Sam thinks I should go down to 25 as a pro.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big jump when you only weigh 145 pounds. I mean, the
Yeah.
news of Montano coming in on Tuesday to fight week at 144 when she fights at 125 was pretty crazy. I don't know. I having never done a weight cut like that ever. At this point, I don't. It seems like you'd kill yourself.
Yeah.
Eventually, somebody big name's going to end up killing themselves if they try to lose 20 pounds in 2 days. Have any of your opponents missed weight, or have you been lucky enough to have everybody show up professional to your fights?
I think everyone's made weight for the most part. Maybe missed it by like an ounce or two, but at the amateur level, I don't care about that. We're not getting paid. We'll just fight.
How is it?
That's one thing I always find fascinating with you guys. I mean, there's guys I train with too that do have a few amateur fights under their belt. I mean, the motivation obviously right now is it's the glory of winning and the glory of battle and things like that. The energy that showed in that video with that finish you got. So does when people talk business, does that kind of poison it a little for you? Does it make you nervous or put a bad taste in your mouth?
Not really. I love everything about the sport. So training, making weight sucks, but look good, feel good. Um, I love everything about it.
How do ladies like it out there? You got a female fan base?
Um, I don't really know. I don't know how to answer that.
Isn't that what Instagram is for? That's what I hear. I just made my Instagram account, so I don't know. I'm an old man, so you guys got to tell me.
I just made mine too, so I don't really know.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on, Mason.
No problem.
We'll definitely hit up any of our contacts and see what we can do to try to help you get a fight. And I'm sure I'll be seeing you around town or at any of these fights. I'm going to look into
Definitely.
that 29th event. I know that's the night of the big Bellator Musashi McDonald fight, but I'll have to check into the other one. Maybe sneak over there for a couple hours, check out some of the fights, and get a chance to meet you in person. Do you want to throw out your Instagram and Twitter handles here?
Yeah, sure. My Instagram is just my name at Mason Mason Iacobellis Iacobellis, all one word. And then my Twitter is at Big Daddy Mace. I made that
All right,
when I was 15, so.
All right. Well, again, we appreciate you joining us, and we'll be looking to hear if you get a fight or anything lined up. Hit us up, and we'd be happy to have you back on to announce the fight or
Definitely.
hype it up a little bit and help you as much as we can. Again, we appreciate you coming on, and let the guys at Team Quest know that anybody who wants to come on and talk about the fights or just fans of the sport, we love hearing from guys at that gym.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Mason. Have a good one.
See you guys. You too.
Cool. So that was fun. Hopefully he's able to get some fights lined up, and like you said, it's always interesting having somebody taking so many amateur fights. Um, I guess the upside is that your record's not really ever held against you, um, but seems like you'd eventually
Well,
want
I
to start collecting a
mean,
paycheck.
it's yeah. I mean, it's definitely it's where you find out the folks that want to do it and the folks that can't. Like, I mean, I cut weight for I remember when I cut weight for the Grapplers Quest Copa Atlantica when I first started doing jiu-jitsu, and that alone was like, I that was when I said to myself, I said, this is as much as I love martial arts and I love training and stuff, but this is for the birds. I can't be doing this. so so that's how I knew that's what separates the hobbyists from the guys that like him that are obviously they handle it like a job, even though they're not getting paid. And you know, when you have a passion for something, that's how you should handle anything that you have a passion for. You know, so I mean, my hat's off to him. I hope he gets everything he wants done that he wants to do, because it's for me it's love seeing with young folks like that. I mean, the world is their oyster, and when they know it at such a young age, it's really I mean, it's really inspiring, even to an old fart like myself. So
Yeah, well, I mean, to have 9 fights at 21 years of age, I mean, he's ahead of the game already. Even though he's already suffered a couple losses, so he kind of, he's known how to bounce back from those. He's already avenged a loss. That's all positives. I mean, he has a great gym, great coach, good fighters around him. So, I imagine once the time comes for him to kind of jump into the professional level, then he'll be more than ready for what he's challenged with. With all that said, I think I owe you a couple beers based off of our picks from UFC 228.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
uh, we had the Aljamain Sterling Cody Stamen fight, and I mean, what can you really say? Suluev stretch leg lock on by done by Sterling. It was pretty damn awesome.
It was so good that Zabit had to bite him off later off in the fight and do the same move. That's
Pretty
how good it was.
pretty wild that in
Yeah.
almost 500 UFC events, that only happened one time, and I think it was performed by Kenny Robinson at UFC 157
Yeah.
here in Anaheim. Actually, that was the Rousey Carmouche event, um, and for it to happen, that only one time in all those events, and then have it twice in a matter of about 4 bouts, um, pretty damn wild.
But
You know,
the whatchamacallit, it was crazy because there was it was the fight, the Nico Montano fight, because that got scratched, but I had her picked, and that fight went away. But I had tweeted out my picks, and all of them won. Like earlier that night, I had tweeted them out when I was seeing my dad, because I thought people were gonna like say something to me over them, but everybody won pretty much the way I thought, with the exception of Andrade, because she got that knockout instead of the submission that I thought she was gonna get.
yeah, I mean, this was another one of those events where people were kind of sleeping on it. Um, but my God, it turned out to be a night of violence. So, we talked about everything on the Fight Pass prelims on up last week, and the Irina Aldana Pudilova fight turned out to be one of the best female mixed martial arts fights of all time. Just a bloody battle back and forth, and Jim Miller and Diego Sanchez both turned back the clock and had outstanding performances and victories for themselves. I mean, it really, from top to bottom, the whole night was just outstanding. The
Quick before we I just wanted to, because we were talking about it before we went live. So do you think they're going to push up Nate Diaz and Dustin Poirier to the main event, or is that just speculation? Because I can't think of anything else. I mean, we the last 2 weeks in a row. Like, what's up with UFC 230?
No, I think I heard tickets go on sale the 21st to the public. So that's
Uh,
during the pay-per-view. Joe Rogan hinted that they were working on something. So
didn't
I
hear
got.
that.
Yeah, it was after one, I believe, the first pay-per-view fight. He kind of hinted at it. I think they did a little commercial or something. My feed kind of let out a little bit during it, but um, yeah, I saw it on Twitter that he was mentioning that something was in the works. I'm starting to think it's going to be TJ and Cejudo. They showed Cejudo in the crowd, and Rogan kind of. It was shortly after that, and Rogan kind of made a little bit of a, not a gesture, but kind of a comment or a expression that kind of led me to believe maybe that was hinting that was kind of what he was insinuating. So, I mean, we talk about MSG level at this point. That's a damn good fight. So if that happens to be the main event, the John Jones thing still seems far fetched to me. But the other thing that seemed to be kind of sneaking in was, Woodley basically in the main event had a flawless victory and didn't even get hit.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I guess he got hit with 2 punches, but none of zero significant strikes. It was the longest fight in title fight history that anybody had ever went without landing a significant strike. It was like 9 minutes and 45 seconds. The previous record was like 3 minutes. Um, and then you had the Rousey fights where she finished Zingano in 14 seconds. So I think it was pretty much a record that's going to stand forever. That Till's not going to really like. That nine, almost 2 full rounds without landing a punch.
But he actually said, "Well, it's we haven't heard anything yet." But someone asked him if because of obviously he's all right if he would do him and Covington for UFC 230, and that seems to keep popping up, and Covington's all over social media again because of it. The things he said in the post fight press conference. It just seems like I don't know. I don't think I would mind that if that was it seems like the hype it would be right for it if they did it like soon. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. And if you would have asked me a couple weeks ago, I would have been kind of you know, not as up on that fight. But the fact of the matter is, Tyrone Woodley went in there and destroyed Darren Till. Right now, he's kind of at the peak. He doesn't really have a whole lot of other options. There's the Covington thing if the UFC wants to go that route, but then there's also the GSP thing. You talk about a MSG level thing, event fight. The UFC gets desperate enough and they start throwing out, not 7-figure numbers at somebody like GSP and Woodley. I don't know. It's only 2 months out. Actually, inside of that now, we're about 7 weeks out. But I don't think it's so far fetched to think that the UFC could try to pull together Tyrone Woodley and GSP. I know Woodley in his interviews talks about being the greatest welterweight, and generally the consensus in most of the MMA world is that GSP is. Um, it would be a quick turnaround, but that might be something that might motivate Woodley to want to make the cut and do it again. Um, I don't know. That's what I'm down to. I'm down to the Woodley Covington, Woodley GSP, Cejudo, and Dillashaw. Um, I don't really see anything else unless
Well,
they're.
you know,
I just
you
I
know
don't
that
see anything.
GSP's doing that test cut to 155. So I mean, the speculation is that they're trying to use him for a future winner of 229. But I mean, I think that would do it too. I mean, you put GSP in the garden, that's going to draw at any weight. So I think, I mean, even though Tyron Woodley said he's kind of over fighting GSP, but not for nothing, that's a money fight too. That's a money fight that would draw for another title again in Madison Square Garden a year later. Like that's they got a lot of they have all these options that they need to move on quickly.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's the money fight. Woodley can say it, and I'm sure he's a little bit, fed up. But the fact of the matter is, now that statement he made last weekend puts him in that conversation. Um, I'm not one to sit here and act like I'm the world's biggest Woodley fan. I've rooted for him. I've rooted against him in fights. But he's put his name on that Mount Rushmore of the 170-pound division, and if GSP's down, I think that's a fight you have to take. I don't really get into the GSP 155-pound thing. I don't really see any reason for it. Um, I'm not real big on guys that dominate weight classes, cutting weight to go to a smaller weight class. I don't really see anything in that. I think Khabib or Connor could both go up to 170. They both have fought at 170, and if that's the fight they want to have with GSP, let's do it at 170. At a guy that old in his career, he just had his last fight at 185. I don't need to see him drop to 155. Um, doesn't seem necessary. Not with Woodley there. Woodley's the kind of the money fight for him to defend the honor of his 170-pound, crown. Um, Obviously, that would be the fight. I don't see Poirier Diaz being the main event unless stuff falls apart or they just have to announce something. But with, like I said, the ticket date, the Fight Club presale in theory should be a week from tomorrow. So I'm guessing tomorrow on UFC Tonight, they're going to have something to announce. Um, the GSP thing's a little bit, or not the GSP, the John Jones thing is becoming a little bit more and more suspicious, with the announcement today that Fabricio Verdun tested positive for a steroid and he was suspended for 2 years. He tested positive in April of this year for a banned substance and was already given his suspension. John Jones tested positive in July of last year,
Yeah.
and we haven't heard anything in 14 months now. So I don't know um, what that's all about. Seems awfully odd to me that somebody could test positive 2 months ago and already have a 2 year suspension, and you have another guy who tested positive well over a year ago now, and we still haven't heard anything about official suspension or any kind of recourse for his multiple time, uh, drug failure. So I don't know. It's one of those things where obviously I'm antsy about it. Like I said, I hit up my ticket connection to find out when I'd be able to buy tickets because I'm excited about it. But I don't know. I feel like there's got to be something. I just can't. I've said it before. The gate and everything, and I know the rental fee for MSG is probably the highest in the country to rent out an arena. So
Yeah.
I just don't see a top ticket price of $500, which is, in my opinion, what the Diaz fight would bring. I don't think it would have the monetary value to the UFC to have that fight be the headliner, unless they're just willing to take it on the chin and just go, hey, this is what we got, um, and if that's the case, then so be it. I'll have damn good seats that night and get to watch some really good fights. I know Weidman Rockhold became official during the UFC 228 pay-per-view as well. So, I mean, right now you've got a middleweight battle. The other odd thing is that the UFC website, the UFC.com, the UFC Fight Club website, um, Google, everybody still has the Romero Costa fight listed, and
Yeah.
everything I've heard or seen from those fighters is that fight's not going down until January. So
Yeah. No, it was pushed back to January.
you want, yeah, I know, but it seems weird to me that it's still advertised on every single outlet as the fight card gets updated. That fight stays on the fight card. So I don't know if that's something
I
that
mean, I would. I'd imagine they're going to update it once they get a main event. I mean, it seems to be like UFC 230 is this it's like this just silent like ops this silent decoration in the room that no one's going to notice until a spotlight's put on it. So I'll cuz look, it's probably not a priority with McGregor Khabib coming up next month. Obviously that's their money maker with the ticket selling out in 3 minutes. So it's kind of like something else was like that. I just talked about with somebody over at one of the sites I write for. Oh, like with De La Hoya and his MMA venture. I reached out for media stuff. It doesn't seem like they want to talk about it too much because they don't want to overshadow Canelo Triple G this weekend. So I'm sure after Canelo Triple G is done, then we'll hear more about Ortiz Liddell and the undercard and things like that. But so I think that's what's happening there. I think once Conor and Khabib get their fight out of the way, hopefully nothing happens. Seems like, was it 22 events now that went south for the UFC? So hopefully nothing happens. Let's hope they don't close out the year with bringing that number up.
Yeah, I that would be devastating. I don't honestly see how that event could really continue. I know they added
Especially with you coming to New York. I mean, God forbid you come to New York and you bring your luck with you.
Yeah, I don't want to see that fight move to New York unless ticket
Yeah.
sales go on sale early and then they add it. But
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening right now unless I don't see that happening. I think it would push off till later. I mean, it would take both of them getting hurt. Ferguson's going to step in for either one of them
Oh
if
yeah,
so that's
that's
kind of the
true.
backup plan. So it would take a catastrophe for that to completely fall apart. Um, with that said, we talked about the Montano situation and her not making weight or not even weight, getting a chance to the weigh-ins, being taken to the hospital, and talked about having some kidney failure and everything like that. And then it came out that she weighed 144 pounds, needing to cut down to 125 in 48 hours. Uh, what was your opinion on them stripping her? In my opinion, anytime a champion misses weight, they should be stripped. That's how it is in boxing. Um, This isn't just some undercard fighter. This is somebody who's supposed to be at the top level of the sport, and to fail that miserably at it is to me is almost unforgivable, and you should have to give up your championship at that point.
Well, yeah, I mean the title has the weight class attached to it, you know. So if you can't make the weight, then how do you defend that title? So it makes that in that sense it makes sense stripping. Yeah, I mean, as far as her inactivity and stuff, I mean, other people were citing other fighters that have been active for longer and stuff, but that's the key right there. What you just said, you have to make the weight. I mean, everybody was worried about Darren Till. Darren Till's already talking about going up to 185. So in some other universe, if he beat Tyron Woodley, you know, and became the champion, the first thing people would have said was like he's not going to defend that belt because he's going to go to 185. You know, so yeah, I mean, she says she's going to try to get it back. She never missed weight before that. I don't know if she always fought at flyweight. I know she fought in King of the Cage. She mentioned it that she never missed weight, but no one ever asked. I don't think anyone that she spoke to afterwards mentioned the weight. I mean, I do feel bad for her. You know, like it's unfortunate that her body. You know, sometimes the mind won't wants to do more than the body can handle, and that's what again and stuff. That's what separates them from the professionals from the hobbyists is their drive to try that hard and take that risk to get there. She obviously did it for the Ultimate Fighter show. So who knows what happened? I mean, maybe it had something to do with all her medical issues after that put her out for a while. And she did say that rushed back into action. That either way, a title strip was going to come if she didn't take the fight. Um, that's what she said on when she spoke to Luke Thomas on Monday. So it seems like maybe her body wasn't ready. So I don't know. I don't want to disparage her for because obviously it was a medical issue, but and she wants to come back and fight. But yeah, I mean, I can't argue with the decision to do that because I mean the champion has to be the champion at that weight. And Daniel Cormier, you got people with two titles. Daniel Cormier, Conor McGregor. I mean, they make the weight for the titles they hold. So it's hard to argue against for her is what I mean to say.
Yeah, I mean that's just what it comes down to. If you're the champion and you sign to fight, you have to make weight. If you don't make weight, then you either fight and you can't win your belt back, or you forfeit the belt if you don't make weight and can't make the fight. So that's just the way it has to be. And inactivity is one thing. If she didn't sign to, if she didn't sign for the fight, they probably wouldn't have stripped her. She would have could have probably bought a couple months. But if the UFC needs you to fight and you haven't had a
Yeah,
fight in 9 months, and you I don't know. It's kind of
which
a
that they threatened to strip her. That's what she said on her interview with Luke Thomas. And we can only go by the parties involved and what they say. The UFC obviously they'll either respond to stuff or they don't. So, but I mean it wouldn't be the first story we've heard from fighters that fight for that promotion that talk about that they're sometimes they're being asked to do things they don't really want to do. They wanted her to dress up in feathers and headdress and stuff, and she was like, "What? Are you kidding me? Like, what is it, 1980?"
yeah. No, I mean there's all we know how it works, but the fact of the matter is that the bout was signed 2.5 almost 3 months ago, um, and 2 days before the weigh-in she was still 19 pounds overweight. So it makes me wonder what she was a month ago, and it's obviously a sticky subject when you start talking about people's weight and stuff like that. But she's a professional athlete. If you're the 125-pound champion, you can't find yourself sitting at 160 pounds, or I mean, we used to talk about Tito Ortiz cutting weight and 25 pounds, and it was like crazy. Well, he was cutting from 230 to 205. The idea of somebody cutting from 150 pounds down to 125 to me just seems crazy, unhealthy as it proved to be. I don't know what she got down to. I don't. That was never disclosed, so I don't know if she even got close. But I can't imagine she. went from 144 to much under 130. Still 24 hours out from the actual weigh-in. So I don't know, but that's where it is.
What's weird is that she looked good. If you watch like her interviews, UFC Tonight, the open workouts, the media day stuff, she seemed fine. So that's what's crazy about it. I mean, a lot of it's not the first one. Like there's fighters that seem all right. I mean, with the exception of like the Max Holloway thing, where people notice things. Like she didn't have any of those little cues that seemed like she was, excuse me, having a bad cut.
Well,
But I mean, hey,
one might argue she was having no cut at all.
yeah, yeah. Hey, I mean, with the numbers, I think I read something recently. Like, there's something that says they have to come in within a certain amount of pounds on fight week. I forget what the number is. I think it's like 8 pounds or something.
It's like 10% or 12% or something like that. So she was way over. I think the recommended weight for her to be would have been like 138 or something like that. So she was already like 6 pounds over that. But that's another one. I don't know if the UFC gets desperate and just looks for a title fight. I could see Shevchenko versus Jędrzejczyk, if they just wanted to do a 125-pound championship fight at MSG just to have a title fight on the card. That's not one that I could see that one also slipping in there if they just get desperate for a title fight or a headliner.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that. I don't know if that's well. Joanna does. She's got a fan base in New York City, so I could see that. I could
She's
see
got a
that.
fan base. She fought there. She defended the title there. She's fought there twice. She actually defended and lost the title there. Um, she has a little bit of a history. She's actually got 2 losses to Shevchenko in Muay Thai. Um, and she's always rumored to go up from 115 to 125. So I could just see that being thrown together if they wanted a couple name female fighters just to put on a card, just say they have a title fight, and then just advertise it just as a real loaded main card. Before we go, this weekend we have UFC Moscow, the UFC's first venture to Russia. The card has guys from Andre Arlovsky to Thiago Alves, Peter Yan, Rustam Khabilov, um, and a whole bunch of other Russian fighters coming in. A couple guys coming in from M1. But the main event, Mark.
Devashvili from Sarah Camp.
I don't see Duvashvili on the fight card, but he is.
Yeah.
He is. He's fighting Terrion Ware.
Yeah.
That's that is there he is. It looks like he's the opening bout that evening right now.
Yeah. I like that guy.
The what fight did he have? He had the one. He had the one where it was questionable. Tap out or stoppage, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fairly recently.
He's
But
entertaining to watch. He's an entertaining fighter.
The main event that night is longtime K1 legend, Pride legend, now UFC legend Mark Hunt, and he takes on the master of the Ezekiel choke, Alexei Olenek, who's got like 60 wins, has beaten everybody from Crow Cop to Travis Brown to, I mean, just a gigantic list of people on his resume. Not going to go down the whole card, but how do you see the that main event unfolding? What's your prediction for that one?
I mean, I'm a fan of Mark Hunt and everything, like everybody else, but Rusty lately. I mean, got a bad taste in his mouth with the promotion. It's in Russia. Like, I honestly, I'm picking Alexei Olenek to win that one.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way as well. A lot of it, like you said, comes. What's Mark Hunt's motivation? What kind of shape does he come in? If he comes in good shapes and able to sprawl and obviously land a big punch, then it goes his way pretty heavy. Olenek doesn't have really his striking is nothing to necessarily write home about, but his wrestling and submission game is almost it is top level. On the level of Verdun and Mir and those guys at the heavyweight division. Some might argue that he's even better than those guys. So yeah, I lean towards if it ends early, I think Olenek takes him down and is able to work a sub, maybe an anaconda choke, something like that. Um, but if the fight goes on and Hunt's able to avoid the submissions for a round or two, I think he could end up actually landing a big punch. But I'll go on record taking Olenek by submission. I'm actually going to go with round one. I think he'll get him down quick and work something from the top position.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he can get him down quick. We'll know when the fight opens up, but because like Hunt always has that chance to. I mean, he's got the puncher's chance to land his devastating punch. Excuse me, but um, it's one of those things where even if it goes a distance, lately it seems like you can see the motivation leaving Mark Hunt when the fights go to the distance. You know what I mean? And he kind of just survives for it to go to the judges. I don't know, man. I mean, they're both actually not that far apart in age or anything like that. It just seems Olenek just still has a different outlook versus Hunt when it comes to fighting there. I feel like if Hunt's contract ran out, he'd retire or he'd be wait out the match period so he can get a call from Coker or something. I feel like he'd be a better heavyweight at Bellator if he did a move like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's up there in age. What's he, 44, 45 now? So, I have a feeling that if this fight, he loses this fight, we could see him perhaps finishing his career in Ryzen in Japan where it all started for him. So, um, and potentially next year, I saw a thing where, you could have guys like Fedor, Krokop, Hunt, Verdun, Mir, uh, Karatanov, a bunch of guys who are potential free agents in 2019, which would make for a hell of a Rising Grand Prix. So I don't know. I'm trying to find the start time because it's in Russia. It looks to me like the main card starts it says 11 a.m. I'm not sure if that's Eastern or Pacific, but I think that's probably Eastern time.
Yeah, I know it's like I'm probably gonna I'll be training when it happens, so I know I'll watch it later. But yeah, it's definitely one of those middle of the day cards. Saturday, the UFC doesn't like to try to compete with boxing when the big boxing pay-per-view, the Triple G Canelo's on that evening, and then Flow Combat has the MMA Pro League that we interviewed. We had Mark Taffet on here also on Saturday night. So it would be best for them to get out of the way in the middle of the day.
Yeah, well, it'll make for a fun day of viewing when you got that on, and then you got the like you said the Canelo Triple G fight. I look forward to that one. Might have to find a bar or something because $100 pay-per-view for a single boxing match is asinine, even for a fight, even for one of the few big name American boxing matches that's worth watching. Hopefully I watched the first fight, and I'd like to see Triple G get that win and get his hand raised after I think he won the first fight pretty dominantly and fell victim to the Vegas boxing Adelaide Bird debacle. So there's that. Yeah, so UFC boxing, the Pro Fight League. Looks like it's going to be a fun weekend, and then we come up next week. We'll be previewing Bellator 205, which is on September 21st.
Oh, real quick. There's also if you're not interested in any of those things, there's a submission thing. I put it out on my Twitter. Men of War. It's a submission only thing. It's here in Jersey. One of my training partners does the. He's actually in that 8-man tournament, and you can watch that on Fight. Putting it, even though we're no longer an affiliate of the damn streaming service, but we that's my boy fighting on there. So I'm actually probably going to be at that with him versus watching Canelo Triple G to home and stuff, because I'll be earlier in that afternoon. So closer to home, and So I don't know if I'm gonna make it to Atlantic City for the MMA Pro League, but most likely that's what I'll be at. So if you have Fight TV, it's a $15 pay-per-view for an 8-man grappling tournament.
Awesome. So another good show. Again, fans can follow us at Combat Hour on Twitter. Myself at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow Ed at Carbazal on Twitter or at Carbeerzal on Instagram. Ed, survive that hurricane, brother. Hopefully, it doesn't come too far up the East Coast, and everybody around you is safe.
I'm actually watching right now. They're saying now it's gonna come closer. Son of a bitch. We can't catch a break in Jersey. They should just sink us all.
Oh man! All right, well, hang in there, brother, and obviously, we'll all be we'll hoping for the best with that, and that goes for everybody up and down the East Coast. I know John Lucas, one of our guests, is in South Carolina, so
Oh yeah.
hopefully he's okay, and we look forward to I look forward to talking to you next week and hearing any stories you have about the wind rattling your windows there at your place. So
Hurricane survival or fights. One of those things will be the topic for next week.
yeah, we can have earthquakes here and still get a show, but it's hard to have a show with a hurricane going on.
Yeah.
So hang in there, brother. Keep me updated, and look forward to talking about this weekend's action with you next week.
All right, man. Peace.
Peace.